from continental US can travel to Hawaii using just your vaccine card as a travel exception. So
Okay, got it. So, so anything else then? Otherwise, it sounds like then it's a wait and watch to see what happens. So I'm going to skip ahead. By the way, just one of the things I want to give you a heads up on today is that we are going to go over, I want to go over a little bit of what I plan to do with those who attended the meeting. So I can get onto that maybe a little later. But as far as I know, nobody has gotten any illness since then, or their family members or so on. So, but I do want to record, and if I'm going to put out something, I think I'm going to put out something official that it was a safe event, et cetera. So I'm going to be putting a survey out to you, but I'll let you know about that in just a little bit. All right, so the first thing I want to do is first welcome everybody back to the show that never ends, and so thank you for being here, and I really appreciate it. Again, I think we can get through this fairly quickly today. One thing I did want to say is that Corey, your talk came across really well and well timed, and tell us what was your excuse this time for not being here? Something like grandchildren or something, right?
So I really want to be 45 years old, but I'm now in the grandfather kind of phase of my life. So I all kidding aside, I run, I do yoga, I play tennis, and believe it or not, I even weightlift. Nothing prepared me for two kids, age 4 and almost 7. My legs at the end of the day, I could barely walk. Getting into bed and putting them up was the best thing, but it was a good experience.
Exactly. I remember one friend, I was a guy who was in the sheriff's department. He was going to go in and help me because to evict some people who were actually dealing drugs out of an apartment I had at the time back in Houston. And he said, now that I think about it, because he said, can you babysit my kid during that period of time? And I go, sure. I said, now I felt really guilty setting him into harm's way, et cetera. He says, no, it's a piece of cake. He goes, but you handled the 1-year-old for a while and see what you think, right? Or whatever, I was a 2-year-old, I think at the time. I get it totally. So good. Well, thanks for being here. And hopefully we'll have you on with us next year. So again, same time, same station. So that same week, same place, et cetera.
Yeah, I put it on my calendar. If I get invited, I'm coming.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. Hey, Dad, what is the situation there? You're still the medical director, right? For Nashville and the airport, et cetera, right? Correct?
It is correct.
Okay.
For years to come.
I'd heard that Neil Richmond had come out there. Is he still with you? Is he there? Or is that not happening?
He's our director of research. Doing a great job.
Okay, good. Fantastic then. All right, so then let's do this. Let me go. John has to get off pretty soon because of the heat thing. So I wanted to comment on the heat thing. What did I call it here? I think I put it as, oh yeah, the Pacific Northwest, hotter than Texas in June. Yeah, so you want to give us a report on that if you don't mind? The Portland Medical Director, Portland Eagle, Dr. John Jew. John, are you there? He said he could only stay until about 9 o'clock due to our heat event. So maybe he passed out from the heat. Who knows, right? Hey, John, are you there? Or can you hear me? He may be tied up with some other call. Who knows? So, which is just, they does. I remember when I lived there in the Pacific Northwest, I was in an apartment that didn't have air conditioning. We never needed it. It was only hot for maybe 3 days and maybe in the 90s, et cetera, during that period of time. So this is just amazing what they're going through there. It is. John, are you there? So John Jew? There we go.
Yeah, Paul, I'm having connection issues for some reason.
Okay. Well, anyways, do you want to tell us a little bit about what you've experienced so far in terms of casualties from the heat and or what you're planning to do, or and how long do you think it's going to last for? It looks like we're still having connectivity problems, huh? Okay, too bad. So, well, John, pipe in anytime you can, and then and interrupt us because I do want to hear before you go off what's happening up there, okay, and how you're handling it. All right. So, with that being said, I'm trying to think. Do we have anybody else like from the Seattle area as well? There, I'm trying to see if either Mike or Andy are on. I don't see either of them right now. So, okay, I will move on then. Mick, anything to report from over in your neck of the woods in Dublin?
Yeah, we've had quite a tricky few days because the public are now starting to revolt against the restrictions. And there had been a well-flagged announcement that July 5th, everything was going to be open again. And they've now railed back on that and deferred it by 2 more weeks. The hospitality industry is up in arms. It's very, very difficult at the moment. They're very concerned about the Delta variant, and their modeling from the National Public Health Emergency Team had put it at back to our big rates from January of 2,000 cases or 3,000 cases a day, but not as many hospitalizations. And the government are nervous and have slowed down the opening, which is causing a public backlash. We don't have a lot of COVID in hospitals at the moment, but the majority of what's been picked up in the screening centers is Delta variant. It is young people, but there are a couple getting sick.
Okay, let's see. First of all, John Jew, have you agreed connected by any chance, John? All right, then let me ask you this, Mick, if we don't hear from him. You heard that our degrees of violence and people using guns and anger or stuff and road rage incidents are happening. Since there is certain, even though there may not be gunshots there, do you have an increase in violence or any kind of who knows, assaults?
That's not how the public does stuff here. So there would be lots of protests. There'll be marches outside the government buildings. There will not be any riots. There will not be any buildings destroyed or anything like that. There'll just be lots of anti-government protests. And there are a couple of by-elections on at the moment, and the government are afraid that'll backlash on them because they have a very small majority in the government.
Okay.
It would make a difference for them if they lost a couple of seats.
But you're not seeing aggravated assaults or any of those kinds of things at this type, or stabbings or anything increased, just out of curiosity, like we're seeing here in some cities.
Yes and no. It's not what you're seeing. It's not a heat-related thing. We're just have had the pubs open for the last week, so it's the first time that people have gone back to pubs. And we're now have the alcohol-related stupid fights at night at bars.
Okay, got it. All right, I understand that. All right, let's move on then from there. John, we'll try once more. John Jew, can you get on now?
Yeah, Paul, I'm having connection problems. Maybe it's related to the heat. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you much better now. So why don't you go ahead and tell us, I wanted to know, one, have you had casualties from the heat or, that you've seen so far? And two, what are you planning to do and how long is it going to be lasting for?
Yeah, we've had probably our all-time peak in EMS calls in the last 2 days. Our normal calls in the summertime is around 300 to give people a perspective, and we had 420 yesterday as well. All our hospitals are, the EDs are basically full to the brim, and I was called in last night. I got home at 4 o'clock last night to help with the surge here as well. About 10 to 20% bump are directly heat related, but a lot of the calls, we had an all-time high in trauma of any sort, including motor vehicle accident, gunshot wounds, stab wounds, fights, et cetera, and then the usual sundry medical problems here as well. So so we're our EMS system and the EDs are very strained right now. Unlike our previous week, we have had no boarding yesterday. So all our problem was extremely excessive volume, probably secondary to the heat. As everybody here knows, most of us don't live in Phoenix, and about 30 to 40% of Portland doesn't have air conditioning. 70-80% of Seattle doesn't have air conditioning as well.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just counting on that before for when I lived there.
Yeah.
How long is this supposed to go on for?
Yeah, the extreme heat is gone for, but we're going to be warm, but tolerably warm over the next week here as well.
Okay.
I've been in Portland for 4 decades. I've never seen this heat before. It's obviously record setting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm just so sorry that all of a sudden, what an amazing turn of events for you. So I'm glad that sounds like you're on the peak of the heat. How hot did it get there? What was the temperature? And I'll do the conversion of centigrade.
Yeah.
But how hard did you get?
115 degrees in Portland. We were only 2 degrees behind Las Vegas, or Phoenix actually as well.
Yeah. Okay, got it. God, that's just absolutely amazing. So it's like, is it well in the 40s, as we say, in centigrade?
Yeah, well in the 40s. Again, it's amazing as well.
All right. Well, any event, thank you so much for being on. Hey, John, I sent you a couple articles
Yeah.
A little bit about what that was about and your commentary about them. This is an infectious disease realm, okay? So
Yeah. So the question was, as everybody knows, a recent Nature article about the longer term immunity. And as everybody knows, Nature is very good. It's like New England Journal of the science world. I just need to have a little bit of caution with over interpreting the article. It basically looked at immunity in longer term B memory cells and T memory cells, and there seems to be some immunity. But I think from an infectious disease point of view, we need to look at this as perhaps a promising development, but we sort of know that this was going to happen. So just to reiterate my concerns, number one, that the immunity is related to the current variant that's been straining most of us in the Wuhan variant versus the new variants. And so the immunity may be variant specific, like we have with flu. That's number one. Just to reiterate, it may be variant specific. Specifically, there was an article in one of the science journals that basically looked at antibodies against the Brazil variant and some of the other similar Brazil variants, and they did not neutralize the Indian variant here as well. So just because you have one immunity does not mean it crosses to the other. The other concern is that the immunity, as everybody here knows, is basically a balance, and so it's the timing of the immunity and the showing up of response versus the protective response versus the cytokine storm. So just because you have immunity does not mean that you're free from the disease. Specifically, if your immunity kicks in late, you're going to have like a MIS myocarditis picture rather than a prevention of the infection here as well. So the immunity could make it worse, and the balance between Th1 and Th2 could be possible. And number three, I think really looking at our reinfection rate is probably protective. That's the good news. But how protective, and is it protective against disease? We really do not know. So that's essentially my comments here. Sort of good news, but approach it with caution.
So John, one of the things that strikes me is that we've had those trials, the original trials, and I assume they're following those people up. How many of those people do we have? Do you have any information about how many of the people who got, for example, either Pfizer or Moderna have still got some kind of immunity if they're checking that? Is that what this article was, or is it, or do you know it from a separate source?
So from a separate source, the UK immunity, they've looked at it for approximately 6 months as well. And there is some retained immunity, both in T cells as well as measured antibody here as well. Whether that immunity is sufficient to protect against the acquisition of disease versus the presence of severe disease and or death, no one really knows right now.
Okay, well, but so far so good. And that leads me to a quick segue about what we're going to do here in a survey. And I'm going to show it to everybody. I'm going to share a screen in just a second. Anybody have any questions for John or any other issues to raise along these lines? Glad we had you for the time we do have, John.
Hey, John, the Canadians
Yeah.
and others are increasingly reporting mixed vaccines are good. That was on the IFF-IFC call this morning. So they kind of accidentally have fallen into having the mixed vaccines, and that's looking promising. And the other piece that they brought up was the recent studies that were effective on the Delta strain. You're hearing and viewing the same things, correct?
Yeah, there was an article that came out in the last 2 days that actually, it's also from the UK, that basically looked at a small number of individuals that this was intentional, that were basically vaccinated AstraZeneca or Pfizer and crossed over here as well. And this is a serology article to the current virus right now. So if you look measured antibody, there seems to be a antibody that's measured. However, we do not know these adverse effects of the vaccines and whether they're additive, multiplicative, or basically protective against each other as well.
Yeah.
In other words, you just basically sustained a adverse effect profile from both the vaccines as well. So yeah, that's the con side here as well.
Okay.
The other one, Jim, is that I think Johnson and Johnson is going to may recommend a second dose. We don't really know that, but that's
Yeah.
just what I'm hearing from the
Yeah,
grapevine.
Hey, Jim, when you were hearing about mixed vaccines, were they talking about Moderna and Pfizer and/or the AstraZeneca and Pfizer, or which, or all the
And
above?
any of those flavors.
Okay, got it. All right. All righty. Anybody else have any questions before we lose John?
Second question for John. Approval of vaccines, in particular Pfizer, then Moderna. Any idea on timing? Because our real issue about in the huge issue, Paul, is mandating vaccines and where we're going with that. San Francisco did that last week for all city employees. A lot of fire chiefs are looking at the possibility of going to mandates. And a tripwire for that really is approval of a couple of the vaccines. And I have told them 6 to 8 weeks is the best that I have heard in terms of estimating when the FDA may approve one or both of those vaccines. Is that a fair estimation in your experience?
Yeah, could you repeat the question, Jim? The approval of which vaccine again?
It'd be the one of them.
booster shot?
Pfizer's a little bit
Yes.
ahead, so let's assume they're first.
Yes, the approval is going to be quick. It's going to be a modification of an already approved vaccine. So I anticipate it'll be fast streamed. John Cromer may have some inside information on that here as well, but I anticipate that the approval process will be very good, very similar to their flu vaccines.
John,
Yeah, that's the timeline I've optimistically heard.
good.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. All right. Hey, just as we see in the chat column, Jim Oxley nicely put up that the CME code today is 12984, which would make it 12985 for the people on the Florida call. So 12984 for the main Eagles thing, and then for the pre-con, so to speak, the 12985. All right. So I wanted to show you what I wrote up, and you're going to get a survey. Mark Worth, as usual, our hero, is putting something together for us, and I'm going to do a screen share here if I can, and hopefully don't have too many weird things on my screen today. Okay, am I coming up yet? You see it? Okay. You guys see that okay? Can everybody see my screen okay?
Looks fine, Paul.
Okay.
I see it.
Okay, good. So what you're going to see is something like this. It's going to be in a survey form so I can get the data collated. It'll be Eagle survey to ascertain if our gathering was a super spreader or a safe event, right? So now that we've waited more than 2 weeks after our initial travel and over 10 days after our final meeting date and travel date, we would all like to know, one, did you get ill with possible COVID-like symptoms since attending our meeting in person? Yes, no. If no, go to question 3. So if you said yes, did you test positive for COVID-19 or did you test positive for something else, flu, RSV, or you think you had it? And then I should probably adjust that. But anyways, how severe and how long did it last? And then did any of your subsequent, and then number 3 is, did any of your subsequent contacts, family or coworkers, get sick? Same question as above since your return, yes or no? So I said, due to privacy concerns, if anybody has concerns about it, just contact me directly and confidentially, and I'll keep it confidential if any of the above is positive, and then call me at those numbers. If we all agree, we'd like to report back the numbers only, along with maybe relative degree of severity and duration and the potential spread to others. But we will do so without providing information that would lead to anybody's identity. Specific details would be, the specific details would remain between me and whoever's calling me about this and after our meeting. However, based on everything I've heard to date, I mean, we expect no calls at all. It is our impression that everybody did well, but we do think it was a safe, so we do think it's a safe event, but we would like to confirm that no one got sick and be able to report this and say, with so many people reporting, we had no illnesses whatsoever. So still document this for the survey, if you wouldn't mind, for those who attended, right? It'd actually be interesting to see if anybody else got sick who didn't come to the meeting, right? That'd be a control group, right? How's that? So Mick, did you get sick during the meeting? No?
No.
Okay. Okay. And John? Okay. But anyways, but does everybody have any problems with this, or does this sound like a good thing to send out? That we'll have a nice little review. And then I'm going to also send it out to all the other first care people after we do ours. Anybody have any problems with this or any suggestions for me? Okay, hearing none, then I'll move on. I just wanted to make sure you got to see what you're going to be getting soon. I'm also, for those who did attend, I'm sending out a reimbursement letter. You'll see that. We all agreed that we were going to take care of ourselves, but there are some cases that we are certainly going to prioritize and take care of altogether. The hotel costs were really high this year, and so that will affect things. But I think we did so well at vendors, I would not be surprised if we get a significant amount of refunds back. So you'll see what I said out there. Those who attend the meeting, you'll get that. And so I'm really excited about it because I think we're going to be able to pull this off. I'm also, though, going to weigh that against showing them that we weren't a major drain on the assets, the Fire Chiefs Association, which is a 501c3. And if there's anybody who had a use it or lose it situation with their university, that it could be paid from another source. And so it's not going to hurt them in their pocketbook. Then why don't you go that route? I'd like to, be as, in the black as possible. And the same thing with people who wanted to donate, and maybe you could talk to your accountant and see if that's allowable, to say, this is a 501c3, I'm going to donate my time, this, the expenses of it. So I'm throwing all that stuff out because if we can look even better, I'm going to be in better shape next year to be able to invite the overseas people, as well as, the other Eagles who couldn't attend this year, such as, Crawford as an example, right? Or some of the others who were not allowed to travel during the COVID era. That's all. So, okay. So that's the intent there. And I hope you'll be seeing that coming from me fairly soon. Okay. Any questions about that? Okay. Hey, well, I saw that I had John on the phone, and I think I saw Kathleen Yancey, and I think I saw Brittany Roberts, who we've had on before, regarding the post-emergency department overcrowding from people we can't transport out. Has anything gone on since that time, John? Anything you've learned? Okay. John.
Yeah, nothing new to report, Paul. Thanks.
Okay. So that leads me then to Kathleen. Are you still seeing issues with that? If you're still on there, Kathleen, because you gave us a really good report and some new perspectives.
We're doing a little better the last couple of weeks, only because we haven't needed to transfer as many patients out, but our transport issues remain the same.
Okay. And why do you think you haven't had to transport that many people out? Just out of curiosity.
Well, that's a good question, Paul. I can't answer that.
Okay, well, that's the best answer. Okay,
I think that our inpatient census is still high. We're boarding as many as, we only have a 15-bed ED, and we're boarding as many as eight at a time in the ED. However, perhaps we're doing a little better at, finding beds for them, getting SNF patients out to SNFs, that we're keeping patients rather than transferring them.
Right. And before I go over to Brittany, I did want to ask you this. So everybody knows Kathleen basically helps to manage a large facility in Western Washington State, Eastern Washington State. And Kathleen, how was the heat? Did it hit you there as well? And what happened there with you?
Holy cow. It is. It's supposed to get to 115 degrees here today. However, we all have air conditioning here, unlike Portland and Seattle. We've had several hospitalizations for heat exposure, including fire personnel.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. All right. So anyways, good luck with that. I just hope, you guys survive it. Keep in touch with me. Okay. So that would be really kind of cool. And then, Brittany, let me ask you this. Any issues on your end, worse, better, same, with your transports, getting people transported to your facilities?
It's about the same. I mean, we have late transports around 7 to 10 p.m., which it's kind of just due to staffing and getting the transport set up. So it's about the same.
Well, since that came up, I just wanted to just re-bring it up again for John's purposes because he was really interested in that. We all are. It was a new thing for me. So thank you. Brittany basically oversees an adult living facility center. And so she was really kind enough to pipe in a couple of weeks ago and help us out with understanding that. So thank you again. I hope you're doing well, et cetera, over in your, what's the temperature like in your neck of the woods? You're in Texas, right?
Yes, it actually feels good. It's been raining, so 80 degrees.
Wow.
Little humid, but hey, we'll take it.
Yeah. So a similar situation down here now this week in Floridora. So, all right. So let's see. Let's move on then to John himself. If you don't mind, anything to report, John, then?
I'm going to claim ignorance right now. I was on vacation last week with a 2.5-year-old and a 4.5-year-old. So Slovis has got me beat. Just catching up on stuff over the last couple of hours, so nothing really important to report.
All right, fantastic though. And thanks, although I still thank you for the time you gave me last week. That was fantastic. I mean, just didn't have to edit anything. First draft, brilliant. I'll tell people what that's about someday, I hope. Okay. So
no problem, Paul. Thanks.
It looked pretty clean what we eventually did. And all right, so then, but I just saw this note. Mike Kaufman says 15% decline number of staff ambulances across our state in the last 6 months. Staffing levels are low, fewer trucks. Do you want to talk about that? Was that related back to what we were just talking about, Mike?
Yeah, it was, Paul. You were talking about delays and getting patients transferred between healthcare systems. You know, Indiana's fairly rural, so we've got that whole hub and spoke model of our critical access hospitals and our tertiary care referral centers. We're seeing long delays, sometimes as long as 24 hours to get patients moved between hospitals. And it has to do, I think it really has to do with our workforce. You know, we continue to see workforce declines in number of certified paramedics, EMTs. That's affecting their ability to staff trucks. So as a result, we've gone from about 2,000 down to about 1,700 staffed ambulances across the state. It's about a 15% decline. So patients are just waiting longer. We've got kind of a wholesale opportunity to address this. We're getting ready to launch a summer study session to look at our state trauma system. And half of that study is going to look at the EMS side. So we've got an opportunity to truly address EMS as an essential function of government. We're going to try to define minimum levels. Is that a county level? Is that ALS? What's the right number of ambulances per capita? We're going to try to tackle a lot of those questions here in Indiana and see if we can't improve the system in the months to come.
So, yeah, which is interesting because I think that there may also be this whole issue of attrition rates, that we may have a smaller workforce. I think we're already seeing it in many places. And I know that people like Lakshmi and Veer are looking into, altered staffing patterns, et cetera, maybe to mimic things like what we see in Houston, et cetera, in Seattle, where you have a smaller cadre of paramedics and run most things. So that wouldn't be a bad idea, that because we got to really anticipate what we're going to do and in the future. So and by the way, it's the same thing with the nursing staffing issue as well. But Lakshmi, if you don't mind, maybe prepare something over the next week or two and maybe give us a brief rundown what you're saying. Then we'll have Veer follow up with that as well. And it just might be a good thing for people to be, it's like the guy said, who sent us that note, he said, Eagles, you heard it here first, right? So I want to make sure that we are ahead of the game on that in case other people start running into that problem. So, all right. And go ahead, John, you're going to say something?
Sorry, Paul. Michael, in that drop of 300 licensed vehicles, do you have an idea BLS versus ALS, commercial versus non-commercial?
Right.
Yeah, no, great question, John. We're still trying to deeper dive into that a little bit, since we just looked at the numbers of total numbers of vehicles certified. So trying to see if those are the trucks, the non-response vehicles, or the non-transport vehicles. As we look at this, if anybody's kind of done what we're getting ready to embark on doing in other states, I know Mick mentioned they're kind of looking at the same thing in Ireland. I'd be very curious to see what you've done, any conclusions or best practices that you might have derived. So please let me know, especially as it applies to trauma system design and moving patients. But really it applies to all those critical time-sensitive diagnoses, right? STEMI, stroke, trauma, all the above, sepsis. So thank you.
Yeah. Hey, go ahead. If someone else wanted to pipe in. before I go to
Sorry,
John, I'm
Paul.
gonna go.
Nick, just throw in a thing about that. So we're looking at a trauma system and a trauma bypass in our small little hospital, and we don't have orthopedics on site, so I don't want to bypass for orthopedics, and that's fine. I don't have any complaints, but the people who are running the system are saying we have solved all your problems now because we're introducing a bypass. Because it's major trauma. I said, well, no, 40% of our major trauma are farmers. They don't come by ambulance. They come in their own vehicles.
Yeah.
They come in the front of a tractor.
Yeah.
And they're still going to come. So you're not solving the problem. And I think there's a very simplistic view on the trauma bypass, that just because the ambulance goes somewhere else, there's still a lot of people that walk up with their own significant major trauma.
Yeah, and then as a little bit of tag on to that is that if you have an event like we had in Las Vegas, a lot of times people do come in by Uber to the nearest place or whatever it may be, you know, so you never know. Anybody have a response to Mick before I go on to Glenn and Seda? So, okay, well, no, okay. Then, hey, Glenn, you've run a kind of a tiered system, but you've also used outside resources for various issues. Is there anything you can comment regarding all this? Are you seeing changes, I guess, is a better question.
Yeah, you know, we're in the middle of the third day of our heat wave here, you know, over 90 days as well. Volume since April has gone up over 4,000 towards normal. Heat waves like this, usually we'd hit 5,000, but we haven't hit that number yet. So I guess we're still a little bit lower in our call volume. Our ambulances, again, you know, 2/3 of the system are FDNY municipal units, with 1/3 being hospital-based. We call them voluntary. We've asked for enhanced units, particularly with the summer coming up. We've asked the voluntaries to be able to put more units on. It's difficult for us as the city to put any additional units on because it has to be pre-approved and funded and such. So we try to add additional units during the summer from the hospital base, which they have a little better control on that. You know, again, with COVID, we had the NAC ambulances, the National Ambulance Contract, 250 came to assist us. If anything major were to happen, then we'd ask for our mutual aid, but we haven't had to ask for that yet.
Okay, got it. And then a large percentage of your fleet is also the basic life support, basic EMTs, if I'm correct about that?
That's correct. We're predominantly 2/3 of BLS systems supported by ALS.
Yeah, and the same thing I think in Boston as well. I just wanted to let you know the two people that have been asking me about that know about that. Jeff, do you guys still have a tiered system in Austin? Jeff Hayes, by any chance? Jeff,
Hey,
are you
Paul,
there?
thanks. No, not really a tiered system. We run a hybrid with Medic EMT on most of our ambulances. Some of them are dual paramedic. There is some discussion of looking at that option.
Yeah.
But, nothing serious.
Because I think that when the reason why I'm asking that is that when you originally started the system, they had people analyze it, and that's how they originally created it, which is an interesting concept.
Correct.
Part of the there's many ways to skin the cat, none accommodating to the cat, but so I wanted to make sure our young champions are having to make these decisions, have some assets out there, and know what's going on in the rest of the world. Okay, so.
Right.
All right, so let me see what we have to do. Oh, Marcus, this is great to see you there. How are you? Welcome on board and have a say there. I didn't catch us. Thanks, glad you're there. How are you surviving, health director, right?
Well, I'm so glad to report that I have hung up the public health boots.
Oh, good.
So I have to learn to be an EMS physician again, but just really pleased with how Austin has done in our COVID-19 pandemic. I do want to do a shameless plug. We have a publication in Nature Communications from June 18th about our tiered alerting system.
Yeah.
But certainly happy that we've had the lowest case fatality rate for COVID-19 in the state of Texas, and among the lowest in the U.S. That's along with the lowest unemployment rate of any city in Texas and in most cities in the U.S.
Yeah.
So I think we found the balance, but I do want to say that we are also looking at shortages of personnel, both on the EMS side and on the hospital side. In a recent meeting with our healthcare system CMOs, we've got about 600 nurses short right now. So they've hired 300 brand new nurses and still short about 300. So really concerned about, in particular, the critical care side of the healthcare system in Austin. And, we have recently convened a consulting group on the EMS side because we anticipate that we're going to have ongoing paramedic shortages in particular. So once again, looking at the potential for a tiered system.
Right. And what's interesting about your thing, that what compounds this further is that some hospitals for the first time, including usually it wasn't the nurses, they were opposing paramedics coming into their turf. We're seeing kind of the opposite happening now. And so that may affect our staffing even further, if it comes down to it. So there is a lot of just interesting things intertwining, and you're bringing up exactly what happened. And by the way, Mark Escott's the medical director for Austin, and wanted to make sure everybody knew that. And he had been the interim, if not I don't know if you're the appointed, health director for Austin. That's why we haven't seen him around for the last year, because he just had his head totally buried all the time. So I'm glad to have you back, Mark. It's really great to see you. And we missed you. I hope you get to come to the show next year, okay? And down in
I'll put it on the calendar now.
Okay, yeah, do that. Okay, good. Anybody have any other questions about this before we move on to some other topic, which I'll try to discover what I'm going to do next. We did Pacific Northwest. Okay, I'm trying to see if anybody was here besides me down here. One thing. Hey, Peter, Antevi, you were bringing up the issues about some of the private ambulance services for transports. Is that something appropriate to bring up here, or do you guys have to set out your politics first before we discuss that?
Yeah, it's more political in nature at this time. So
then let it go then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to see, since we were on that topic, I wanted to make sure, I had a nice flow here and all that. I do want to take the time though to say hello to Laura Hall, okay, who, was the person who supported all our past meetings for the last 20 years in Dallas, et cetera. And she came to this one. And so Laura, what did you think about the, first of all, getting together with everybody, and what's your reaction to the meeting?
Well, it was great to see everybody again. I kind of missed y'all. But the meeting, I think, went really great. The people that put the meeting on did a wonderful job.
Yeah, and it was tough because we were transitioning and learning new things about each other, how we did things, et cetera. So, but outside of these minor glitches, I think, yeah, you're right. I think it went okay. So, and we're going to we've already talked about making some modifications, and you were very helpful to the people here locally about some of the suggestions you had, et cetera, that would help us organize. So that was so glad to have you there. We just wanted to thank you for all the labors of love you've done for us in the past and in this circumstance as well. So, okay. So that's it. Anybody have any questions?
Thank you. And I plan on coming again.
Okay, good. That sounds fantastic then. All right. So thanks again for coming, and I appreciate it. Hey, Ray Fowler, usually you have to get off about this time. Did anything report from your neck of the woods, et cetera?
Well, the neck of the woods I'm in is my cabin in Georgia at the moment. But as far as any report, Dallas-wise, just, a lot of administrative things, getting ready for a hot summer. We've got our new QA team working with Dallas Fire. We're losing one of our real leaders, Paul Rosenberger. Dr. Rosenberger will be going to work full-time with the National Registry. So we're really going to miss Paul.
Well, the good news is you don't have to miss him too much, because of his relationship with the National Registry and being head of examinations and all that, we may pull him in to be on the call with us in the future. How's that? Okay.
Sounds like a winner.
He and I had a real good talk last week. We met actually in person. It was really good, and he's doing really well. So thanks for announcing that. He was the person who was the main person with this advanced mental health life support course, correct? If I remember correctly.
That's right.
Yeah.
And of course, Farouk and Gil Salazar and so on.
So Ray, you're one of the only people that have been to every Eagles meeting going back to 1998. How do you? What about the evolution, and what did you think about this year? I think some of the people on the phone weren't even
you and me.
Yeah, right, yeah. So anyways, but any reaction? Were you happy with the way things went this year?
Well, it was interesting to see that survey you want to put out, because I have to say, having been, been completely masked up now for over a year, to go to that hotel and there was thousands of people there and not a single person wearing a mask. It was kind of a reality check.
Exactly. Well, that's life everywhere now. I mean, people think it's all over everywhere I go. I mean, I'm even told.
It was a real hit having the vaccines there, Paul, passing out the vaccines. That was great.
Yeah, good. Well, don't blame me. And also everybody, I think, hey, Peter, did we get the results back? Did anybody test positive on that RT lamp thing we had?
No, we had completely negative results. And so we had no one that tested positive, which is great. And I'm not sure if you've reported back, has anyone called you to tell you that they've been sick with COVID?
Nobody. One person I do know of got ill later, but I think it wasn't part of our group, part of the First Care grouping. And they think they know they were exposed to a bunch of firefighters who were not vaccinated. Let me put it that way, right? And but it was probably an RSV kind of thing, just really quick, a lot of cough for the first 2 or 3 days, better in 3 or 4 days, and and maybe some lingering cough. But I've been on calls with the person, and they basically haven't coughed on the call. So I think everything I've heard is really positive so far. Thank God. The only thing that really bothered me the most was the cigarette smoke, and that's why I refused to stay in the guitar end. That's also that really bothered me a lot. So, all right, well, good. Let's see. Hey, Josh Hartman, I see you're on it. Since we're talking about the meeting, I just wanted to see how about the meeting itself. Did you have any particular issues, or did you like it, or did you like the product we're doing? Has it been helpful to you?
100%. I always say that it is a unique conference. It is an amazing conference for those people who are clinicians and want to get the data. Just the most, the data that comes out of that meeting can be put in on the trucks the next day. So that's a real additive, and why we try and do a very mini version of it at EMS World Expo with the Meet the Medical Directors sessions that you all put on. So yeah, I mean, it's always good to be in front of people and see people, but in addition to that, just the rapid fire content that goes on at the meeting is just if you can hang on and get it all in and take it all in, it's great.
Yeah, and then Nick from your organization was there too. It's your first time, Nick, correct? If I remember, or not? I think maybe you've been there in the past. I can't remember what you told me.
No, I've been to Eagles in the past, but I've never been to Eagles Creek, and the whole experience. I was just there as an attending, and it is, like Josh said, an amazing experience. I was real excited to see my own local department there attending to learn everything, and they're already going to take what you've presented and try to implement it in their own area. Several things like the blood transfusion, some of the other stuff. So the stuff you are providing is getting out there, and it's making a difference. And we're already publishing articles on some of the neat things we've seen there, so that word gets moved out to the greater paramedic community.
And then AJ, you've been doing these for a long time as well. Any reaction how this went compared to the past, or same old that we're always,
I loved it as always. I know you have to help with the sponsors coming in on Eagle Creek, but I think they have to be limited to 5-minute presentations or 10 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Because I like to hear the Eagles talk about their problems.
Yeah.
And we didn't do much of it on the second day.
Yeah. Well, there was part of that was also so we could accommodate the theater war. I wanted everybody to have that experience just in case, and we may or may not have it in the future. But I thought it was kind of cool. Any event, the reactions I got from that was very, very positive, actually. So so it's a little bit trade-offs here or there. I don't want to extend it out to 5 days, but we could. I mean, but I think. But overall, compared to the main meeting itself, compared to that, the only thing you'd probably suggest is that we do a couple more breaks and have more Eagles, what do you call it, sessions, right? When we get up there and take questions, correct?
Yeah, the lightning rounds. And, I thought the feed from overseas as well as from Corey was very professional. There might have been a couple blips, but it was great.
Good. Okay, good. Hey, are you able in position to make a certain announcement we talked about last week by any chance, or this weekend, or what do you want, or do you want to wait to that for that?
No, I'm happy to announce that the winner of the 2021 James O'Page Leadership Award this year will go to Dr. Remley Crow. And we're very excited about that. She is only the second female to win that award and probably the youngest to ever win that award. So congratulations, Remley.
Yeah, how did that happen? That's not right. No, congratulations, Remley. So did you know about this, Brent? Did you know about this one yet? Brent Myers. Yeah.
Yes, AJ called on a Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
I don't know who his protege was for Sunday afternoon phone calls, but
That's great. Well, fantastic. Well, that's good. So she's now back to, she's got the, I guess if we had another award, she'd be going for the trifecta there or the triple crown, right? But she's got at least 2 crowns this year. But she also got best paper awards at some of the scientific meetings earlier this year, which was part of the reason why she got this, and was such an advocate for us at the, you know, not only, you know, in terms of doing the research on ketamine, but also doing testimony and you know, and being a fantastic defender of the of our practice. And so that was fantastic. Plus all the other research she's done on burnout and helping with mental well-being. I could go on and on forever. Anything else you would add to that? Both first, I'll start with AJ. What were the reasons that you heard why everybody thought she'd be the right candidate?
Well, you know, it's amazing that the review committee includes a lot of key people, and a lot of them said Jim Page would have loved to see this award given to this young lady. So I think that's enough to be said. The amount of research that she's done in her career was absolutely amazing to everyone. And you know, the challenge now, Remley, is you got to keep that up.
Yeah, especially because you're so young, you got a lot of years to do that with. Yeah, so you definitely have to keep up. So let's see. But
give us your comments, Remley.
No, well, I also want to hear from Brent first, if that's okay. Brent, if you want to say something about it, because you know, you're her supervisor, and allow her to do many of the things she's doing. So to put it that way, that'd be a good one.
okay. I'll remind myself that that's the relationship in case I forget it at any point. But no, I think the beauty here is that, all joking aside, right? It is literally, what does the industry need? Here comes the question, and then it's done, right? I mean, so I joke about it, but the direction is not coming from here. This is the classic case of just get out of the way. And so I could not be more pleased and proud of the work that she's done.
Fantastic. Well, good. Well, Remley, you want to come up and collect the Oscar here?
I don't know about that. I haven't prepared anything. I mean, I'm still reeling from the surprise and the shock of the Polly Pepe Award at Eagles.
Yeah.
I will say that, you know, it's an honor to get to do what I love, and then to receive this level of appreciation from colleagues and mentors is just, I'm speechless.
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, anyways, yeah, that's right. To the surprise of many people, you're speechless. And I have to say, I think the greatest achievement that she accomplished, and from my point of view, was when she created my P=06 shirt. She is, if you don't know, she is my wardrobe specialist. For those of you who don't know that, it's a wardrobe and makeup. Of course, she often has to call in for backup. But thanks a lot for everything you've done for all of us, let alone our team here. We're proud to be to have you be part of us, and so thank you so much. Anybody else want to make a comment, by the way? Please do if you like to. So if not, then I will move on to the next issue. Hey, Remley, you guys, I think we already went over some of the publications that you did have out pretty recently, et cetera. So I think we're kind of up to date on everything. So I could do a round robin with everybody, unless anybody has a specific thing they want to bring up or topic they want to bring up, like new business, so to speak, before I start circling the room.
Paul, can I just repeat, if anybody didn't hear, that the IFC-IFF group, very watchful on the topic of mandatory vaccines.
Yeah,
it is likely that the healthcare systems and the schools will be in front of us, and it is very clear there will be a trigger point when vaccines are approved, rather than emergency use authorized.
Yeah.
A lot of the chiefs, really want to mandate, but are afraid to, and know that legions of lawyers are going to make billions of dollars over this one way or the other.
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about job security amongst the attorney group.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a real issue. And we should be sharing best practices on mandates for vaccines amongst any of our departments.
Right. And before I go to Eileen Marty, and before I go to the next person I'm going to go to is Doug Kupas, just to make sure you're ready, because I can call on people anytime. Doug, just want to warn you. So I'll go to you next. But I do see that Joelle from San Diego is saying that UCSD, University of California, San Diego, is mandating vaccinations for return to campus. I guess that's sort of like what we do with influenza as well. In many of our places, we already require it there. And Joelle, is there going to be exceptions? For example, if people have to wear a mask or do something like that, if they have some, who knows, religious reasons or whatever it may be for not getting the vaccine?
Yeah, there of course are exemptions for people who can't get the vaccine or have specific religious, and they're very clear on what does it mean to have a religious exemption for vaccination. It's very explicit. And if you have a medical exemption, and then it's masking in certain spots, but it allows them to go without masking in a lot more circumstances safely. And they're giving plenty of time to warn you to get vaccinated prior to the start of school.
Okay, fantastic then. All righty, so I'm going to talk to Doug Kupas real quick. Let me do a quick intro, but I think probably don't have to, but still I'll just do some bullet points. But then hopefully we'll plug in with Eileen Marty and see what's happening on that end. So first of all, Doug Kupas has been, when I first got to meet him at Geisinger, he was the residency director and just, involved in a lot of great stuff, academic, just a sharp guy, and was responsible for his region for EMS. And I was really pleased to see him come in, because I'd been the Commonwealth Emergency Medical Director, and he was the person that followed me. He's been there ever since. So we're over 2 decades at it, and just really proud of him for doing that. And then this year it was made with, and it's tough shoes to fill, but they made the medical director for National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians just now. And so we just wanted to welcome them to the gathering, so to speak, here. So Doug, thanks a lot for being here. I don't know if you have anything to report from your end, especially from the National Association of EMS officials. Did I catch you, Doug? Are you there? I wonder if he got off. Hey, Doug, are you still there? Shows that he's on the call, but I guess, he's not responding. Well, I guess that's that. So hopefully he'll get on later on. So with that, let me pivot over to Eileen Marty and see, is there anything new from your end on the infectious disease end that we should know about? Dr. Marty, are you there?
Sorry, I was on mute. I had to unmute myself. Let me share my screen real quick just to talk a little bit about what's going on, and can you see my screen? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So this is from the CDC webpage, as you could tell, showing the actual percentages of the population that have had at least one dose. This, of course, is the total population, which is quite different from what's going on in the over 65, where it's dramatically better. I think from the studies that you did, Paul, and with John and everybody, showing the problems with vaccination of people older than 70, we have to look at this with a little bit of a grain of salt, right? In terms of what does it actually mean in terms of real protection. But it clearly is having an impact in everything that we're doing, and I think that that's really good. Now I'm going to show you a couple of slides that are from Fauci's talk recently. And he had this data here that there are 16 states, including DC, that have 70% of their adult population with at least one dose. And that's really phenomenal. And then we have these 4 US states which are under vaccinated by a great deal. If we look at, oops, what just happened? Okay, oh, I see, sorry. So this is the data from here in Miami and Miami-Dade, and how we're actually doing in terms of the average positivity of cases. It really has dropped down. Having that many people vaccinated has definitely made an impact overall in the number of healthcare beds. But I will tell you, this pandemic is far from over in Miami-Dade and in many other parts of the world, of course, because we still have upwards of 70 people per in the major hospital systems, for example, at Baptist, that have COVID and are in serious conditions. This is the percent vaccination that we have in Miami-Dade right now. We're at about 60%, a little bit over 60% for at least one dose. And Florida is in the failure group. If you go back to the states that Dr. Fauci was talking about as a group. Not so if you're looking at particular pieces of the population. So older than 12, we just barely meet that criteria of being at least associated with that. This is another one of Fauci's slides talking about the Delta variant. And now we have Delta, Delta Plus, and Lambda out there. Lambda is mostly a problem in Latin America. Delta Plus is, as we already know, much more transmissible than Alpha, and about 60% more transmissible than that UK variant, the B117 Alpha. And it does absolutely increase the severity of hospitalization, the increased hospitalization risk, and there's a decreased efficacy to the monoclonal antibodies, even from Alpha. And I think that's really important. This is showing what's going on in the UK, where my brother lives, right, and his family, and just the incredible rise in the Delta variant there. And the fact that in the UK, it's definitely driven by youth, where there's a 5-fold higher positivity rate among children and young adults. And here in the United States, we are over 20% as of June 19th of the Delta variant. So it is now predicted that Delta variant will make up 50% of cases in the United States by the end of July. And I think that's something we have to be keenly aware of, especially in that population that's refusing vaccination. And we have to bring this to their attention. More serious, more contagious, and increasing in spread rapidly. The good news, of course, is that the efficacy is still good, although Pfizer is down to 88% efficacy with the second dose, right, towards the Delta agent. And it's, of course, has 93% efficacy against it, that. But what's really serious is the one dose people. So three weeks after one dose, both vaccines were only, and they were talking about AstraZeneca and Pfizer, were only 33% effective against symptomatic disease from Delta, whereas about 50% efficacy from Alpha. So that's really serious when you think about those individuals that are getting just one dose. And in terms of all that. And last but not least, let's focus on the good that it can do, and that we have this fantastic tool. We need to really keep on emphasizing its use. And those were just the only slides I really wanted to share with you guys. I hope that was of value.
Anybody have any questions for Dr. Marty? So, hey, this sounds.
I noticed that Libby put on the chat that the University of Hawaii is requiring vaccination for all students, assuming one of them gets FDA approval. Both Pfizer and Moderna have applied for full FDA approval, and I certainly hope that that's given to them. They certainly have earned it soon, because it also has the incredibly positive effect of not allowing EUAs for inferior vaccines.
Yeah. And we got a report both from John earlier, both Johns, John June, John Kramer. I think what they say something like they're thinking it could be as early as 6 weeks from now or something like that. I couldn't remember, Jim. What did you say? Or did anybody? I don't know if I was paying. Or what do you think?
6 to 8 weeks from now.
Okay, got it. And what are you hearing? Anything, Eileen, different than that?
6 to 8 weeks for what?
Oh, for the full approval for perhaps Pfizer, et cetera. So.
Well, I mean, it's a matter of when they schedule it because the data is already in, and it doesn't hurt if you write to your congressman to ask the FDA to get on it sooner.
Yeah.
So the agenda can be changed as to when things are done. By the way, there's a huge meeting going on today, which is why I wasn't on sooner, where I'm providing public comment about education for antimicrobial resistance issues. And there's an overlap. There's an overlap in all of this, with climate change, with viral infections, with the whole concept of prevention.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that sounds fantastic. We're glad to have you on board as well. And I hope that your trips you had a lot of fun on your trips with the youngins, right? So.
Yes, I have a new member of the family, a little redheaded girl, just 6 days old now, about
right.
7. Yeah.
Yeah. Aren't you a little old to be a mother? Or, no, it's a grandchild, right? Is that right? So, and
Yes, grandchild times, yeah.
This got to be a grandchild conference so far, you should see, because we were several people were reporting their visits with grandchildren last week. So I just want you to know you're not alone, okay, out there. All right.
Thank you, and congratulations to Remy. Well done.
Yeah. Hey, and you got to meet her right during the meeting, right? We were so glad to have you there with us. And Peter reported back that no one turned positive on any of those tests with the RT lamp. We've heard. I'm putting out a thing today of everybody who attended the meeting to report back if anybody got sick or of anything, because they weren't wearing masks a lot, and also if or if anybody in their family got sick within the last week or so as well. And I've heard no reports whatsoever, so it's all sounding very good and hopeful right now. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, you have a lot of conscientious people in that group, so that's really good. But I will tell you though that when I went and studied the LAMP procedure, there's no internal control. So there's no guarantee that the sample was a quality sample that they tested.
Right. And that's part of it. For us doing this was to actually see if that seemed to be correct. The problem is that since no one got sick, we're not sure if that is accurate or not. But but we'll see. But that's good for us to know, and that's the kind of feedback we want to give them as well. So which is fantastic. Were you able to do that while you were there?
Yes, I spent quite a few hours with them going through all their procedures. Went into their little lab in the back, etc. And of course, experience the ground truth of getting myself tested, which is very important for evaluating any system.
Exactly right. Good for you. All right. Hey, well, you and I have to get together soon, but the tone in Miami Beach is not real good. You live out in that arena, right? So is that affecting
on a different island, I might add.
Yes.
Yeah. I do have a different island than where that happened, but this issue of collapsed buildings, we had a big meeting about it yesterday. It's now at the point that they have to start considering the infectious disease consequences of the decomposing bodies. So that's the next thing.
Right. It's like I'm going, of course, and then but it's a good point because I hadn't thought about it quite yet, right? So
people don't, but then you do, right? And then you realize what a serious issue that can be for the community right there. It's really a huge problem with how construction licenses are given in Florida, how shoddy the work is, and how challenging it is for owners of buildings or homes to deal with bad contractors in Florida too. There's just issue after issue after issue with that building, and buildings surrounding it are now confirmed to have issues as well that need to be immediately attended to.
Hey, so can you give us a quick elevator ride tutorial on what kind of infectious disease things we need to be worrying about from something like this, where you have nothing but body parts everywhere? So, Eileen?
That was to me. Okay, I thought you said someone else's name. Yeah, no. So, okay. First of all, it's all the fecal organisms that get released, right? And how they interact with the environment, whether they get into waters. Right. And also for the people who are doing the rescue, the fumes and the possible ways in which they can be contaminated from materials from these, bacteria mostly. but
Yeah.
also all kinds of other pathogens. And other pathogens are going to start forming, there's going to be mildew, and you're going to have issues with breathing in fungal organisms and stuff like that can be long-term health consequences. So they need to be wearing appropriate protection, et cetera, and be very attuned to it.
Yeah, we always think of viruses being aerosolized, but it can happen also with these other things, and particularly fungus is a great point. What the other thing I was going to ask you about is that if there is, those kinds of exposures or runoffs, et cetera, they'll probably have to make that part of what they're going to need to do in this, in this operation, is to make sure they're looking for things in the water supplies and so on, et cetera, right? So, okay, wow, it's going to be very, it's very disheartening what happened. And then, at this point in time, it's going to be pretty much, they probably won't even ever identify some people, I'd suspect. It's really
DNA. And we back in the 90s, when I was in Washington, DC, we started a program for identifying even a finger from a, or whatever from soldiers. Using DNA, and today with all the all the ways in which you can compare things, you can find parts and
so for example, let's say no one has any trace of me from a DNA for somewhere else, because theoretically that's my house, that's where my hair is, or whatever else, right? Or but can you do it by looking through like immediate family or next of kin and pick it up? Yes. Okay.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly how it's done, and they've already asked next of kin to contribute samples.
Yep.
They said that the first day, Paul, at the Family Reunification Center, they were asking for people to do swabs.
Yep. Okay. All righty. Well, just a bit of sad thing for us down here. A lot of our, by the way, Eagles, ranging from, I could go through a whole list of people, but Joe Holly, Chris Suver, I could go on and on. We're all down there, by the way. So we miss them a lot. Maybe they'll give us a report back on what's happening down there. So, okay. So. All right, let's see. So let's then, right now we're losing a few people, but Angus, anything to report from the state of Florida in your meetings that you've had there? Angus Jameson, can you hear me? Nope, okay. They have lost Angus as well, so, all right.
Hey, Paul, sorry, I'm here. I'm just sort of multitasking, packing my bag to head to Miami, actually.
Hey, what you're packing your bag for what?
To head to Miami.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Got it. Let's talk about that when you're on your way down. Okay. Because I do want to go over a couple of things with you. If you don't mind calling me after this. All right. So thanks. Anything else going on from your end? Or are you picking up from the state of Florida other than this thing down there? Anything else to report on?
No, just all the same personnel shortages that everybody else is talking about. I have multiple hospital systems that are hundreds of nurses short. That's affecting wait times and throughputs and all that kind of stuff. And I have fire departments and ambulance services that are also significantly short and losing people at an alarming rate.
Yeah. So when we put out our theaters, or our 5 theaters that Jim organized and orchestrated, that's one of the things we were predicting, and here we are. So I think we need to start picking up on solutions, and we have started talking about it. All right. Well, thanks, Angus, for everything you do. I really appreciate it, and hope you stay safe yourself and wear a mask while you're down there. We don't want you to inhale any fungus, okay? So the fungus among us.
Yeah, we're all in P100s down there.
Okay. All right. Hey, Brandon, anything happening in the city of Dallas? I'm just going to go down the list here real quick.
Nothing new or out of the ordinary. Delta variants making up around 5 to 10% of our tested samples. We've got a few hot spots in the county that over the last 2 weeks are about 50% higher positivity rates. It correlates with lower vaccine rates. Same old nonsense here.
Okay, got it. Thanks a lot. And thanks again for checking all our tweets, et cetera. Really appreciate you looking at that during the meeting. Okay. Let's see, Crawford, anything happening in Philadelphia that we should know about? Crawford Beecham, are you there? I know you're there.
I am here. Sorry, I'm sort of multitasking again. Yeah, nothing really here. Day 3 of a 4-day heat wave. Looks like it's going to cool off by Thursday. Volumes are probably up a little bit, but nothing horrendous. Like unlike some systems, we really don't have much in the way of surge capacity to increase our ambulance numbers and stuff like that to adapt to sort of increased demand in the setting of a heat wave. We just got to do the best we can.
Yeah.
And otherwise violence up and everything else is up.
Are you seeing shortages as well? And are they across the board, like at CHOP as well as other at Penn and all that? Any any differences there?
You mean staff shortages or what?
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And what else is differences depending on what hospitals you're going to? That's all.
I don't think so. I mean, all of our hospitals, I think, are back to their pre-COVID volume, if not more. I'm not sure. I'm not aware of any specific staffing shortages, but you got me a little bit off guard with that one.
No, it's okay. I mean, that's fine. I mean, but it also means look into it if you get a chance. We like to see if things, and I like to know if there's differences, like if there's staffing shortages at the children's hospitals versus say the adult hospitals, or the private hospitals versus public hospitals, things like that. That just that's a question to almost all of us there.
Okay.
So yeah, let me take it then. Doug Kupas, let's see if I can get you back on again. I don't know if you're off permanently or not. So is Doug there? Okay. If not, going once, going twice. Let's go to Emily Nichols. I'm just going down the list here real quickly. Emily, so first of all, anything new to report from New Orleans?
Hi, not too much new to report here. Same struggles with staffing in the hospital and the pre-hospital setting. We just got some information recently to confirm the Delta variant is here. We've suspected it all along, but it looks like our first cases were a few weeks ago. So we're starting to get capability to do some local sequencing here. And while I'm not sure, I can't confirm that we are one of the 4 states that Eileen mentioned are behind, but I suspect that we probably are. So yeah, we're just continuing to push out vaccination efforts.
Okay. Hey, and then thanks again for coming to the Eagles meeting. Sorry we didn't get to see the main meeting, but we hope you enjoyed the Eagle Creek anyway. So.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I have the whole week on my calendar for next year.
Okay, good. And then thanks for giving the presentation as well. Were you happy with how that went and that session went?
Yeah, no, I definitely enjoyed Eagle Creek, the opportunity for us to all just troubleshoot together. So I was happy to be a part of it.
Well, Meg did a great job, by the way, whenever it was next day presenting. So just did you guys really an honor there. So thank you for being part of the team here. So, all right.
Thanks.
All right, let's move down. Joelle, anything else to report from San Diego?
No, and I have the excuse of I just got back from vacation, so I'm not fully caught up with everything yet. But
Okay,
next week, perhaps more interesting things.
Did you hang out? You continue to hang out in Florida because that was what you'd always talked about, right?
Yeah, it was lovely.
Okay, good. Where'd you go to?
Sorry, I keep pressing mute and mute. We were in Sanibel Island for a week after Fort Lauderdale.
Ah, fantastic then. Okay, good. Well, just curious. It sounds great. We're just glad you were able to come and hang out with us for a while, and meet Martin as well. Okay, so Kevin Mackey.
Hey, Paul.
Yeah, hey, it's glad to see you're alive. Good to see you. Okay.
No.
How come you're not wearing your dress? Where's your dress uniform? What's going on there?
A lot of good feedback about that. Thank you again for your understanding. And Eagle Creek was amazing. Like Emily, I've got it on my calendar next year for the entire week, so I'll be there. And with Mary this time too, who also had to cancel, which by the way, she got the job.
Good. Fantastic. Give her my best. Okay. So that's very cool.
I will. Thank you.
Can you tell everybody about what that is?
The job? Yeah. So because of our efforts here with the vaccine, my wife became my partner in crime, and we rolled out large vaccination clinics and ended up working our way through small numbers comparatively to like Ken and some of the others, but we were able to vaccinate about 35,000 of the citizens here in Sacramento. My wife really became my partner in crime, and she caught the eye of the Department of Public Health vaccine coordinator for the county, who came up to her one day at one of our clinics and said, would you come work for me? And so she put in an application and got hired. And so now she is the assistant vaccine coordinator, well, actually coordinating any booster and any further clinics for the future in the county.
Yeah, wow, that's great. That's good. And then so that's fantastic. And we're going to need them. There's a lot of other things coming along. And also with the mRNA viruses, hopefully we'll see better turnaround, a better vaccines for various causes. So, you know, whether we have whatever the next SARS du jour is, but thank you so much for doing, and anything new happening in Sacramento that we should know about?
Yeah, I just left an EMS division meeting, and I wish I could have been on the call because I'm sure you guys talked about it. We are at just enormous call volumes, enormous exhaustion. We're actually passing our mandatory overtime budget that we budgeted for this year. We're passing it right now. So we've already put everyone out. We've got some firefighters working 4 days, like 96-hour shifts. The exhaustion factor is up. Our complaints have risen a little bit because our guys are just flat out exhausted, and it's just I just don't know what to do. I mean, I was intrigued by, I think it was Joe Hawley, that talked about just the chaise lounge and the piece of paper kind of thing. And we're talking about putting in a mandatory crew, not a mandatory crew, an overtime crew that will just go staff a hospital and do exactly that. So we're not quite to the point we could just leave a piece of paper and say, good luck. But we may staff it with a crew that's on overtime that just does that and goes to hospitals and gets people off the wall.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And Glenn did the same thing and stayed in New York, et cetera. And so, yeah. So, well, good luck with that.
You know, at our city hospitals, we have a lieutenant to some EMTs with our tablets that will take patients from the FDNY units so they can present to triage. Obviously, those stable patients, our crews can get back out there.
Yeah. So, wow. So that's interesting. All these trends are just interesting. That's all I could say. And it's somewhat predictable, but how they're manifesting themselves is fascinating. Then let me go on to Lakshmi, because you're having similar problems in Atlanta. Lakshmi, you ready to go?
Sure. Hey, thanks. Yeah, very similar problems. We are having huge shortages, and it actually really helped to come to Eagles and listen to the fact that everybody's having similar challenges, especially when I talked to the fire chief this morning to kind of explain where we're at and how we're not alone in this. And that was a little bit eye-opening for them. I guess they just assumed this is just an Atlanta problem.
Yeah.
But other than that, we're continuing to push vaccines. We're not at the bottom 4, but we're definitely in the bottom. And we have had a couple of cases of the Delta variant, just not rampant as yet, but with the amount of airport traffic and people coming in and out, it's only a matter of time.
Okay, got it. All right, well, thanks a lot. Either way, I'm looking forward to seeing you in October there, okay, if not before. All right. I don't know if you're going to EMS today or not, but anyways, if not, I'll see you out there in Atlanta in October. Actually, already scheduling my plane flights and things like that. All right, let's move on down to Mark Conrado out of the Twin Cities and Ralph, RJ, okay? Let's start with Mark in Minneapolis side.
So I want to echo Brandon's thoughts. We have seen a significant spike in our violent crime and penetrating trauma. We are unfortunately headed back to that Murderapolis appellation we acquired several years ago. We are having significant shortages of EMS staff. I can honestly say my former service plus all the other services are running at least 3 to 4 trucks short every shift.
Yeah.
Except for maybe night shifts where they just don't have enough staff.
Well, let me interrupt you, Mark, because just so everybody knows in context that most of the people often deal with fire department-based systems,
Right.
where we're a hospital-based system. If you want to describe that, okay?
We in Hennepin County, we are exclusively hospital-based systems, 4 hospital-based systems, and 1 fire-based system that does not have any of those problems. So they don't have those problems. In addition, nursing staffs are crucial, and have reached significant problems in the EDs. The nursing pools are maxed out. The travelers are maxed out. I can tell you my own ED is 20 positions down. And we finally got our administration to take off the freeze for hiring, but we won't see any of those nurses ready to roll on their own for 3 months.
All right. Let me roll over to RJ across the river, and then I'm going to, be prepared. I'll be coming to you next, Bob Holman. Okay. So.
because we're fire-based, we don't have the same problems on the EMS side, but the hospitals are very understaffed, PAs, nurses. We're opening new shifts, and, having problems filling them. Penetrating trauma is up, not as bad as Minneapolis, but still pretty bad. COVID's pretty much in everybody's rearview mirror, which is, I don't know, could be dangerous. We haven't seen as much Delta as the port of entry cities have. We're pretty well vaccinated. We have about a 63% overall vaccination rate in the state. So that's it in St. Paul, pretty boring.
All right, well, I'm glad it is. Great to see you at the meeting. Did you have a good time at the meeting, by the way?
Did.
Okay, fantastic. You were always, as usual, on a cutting edge on a couple of things. So that, I really appreciate that. And so thanks again for always being part of it, so over all these years. Okay, so let's see, who was I going to put on next? I can't remember. It was Bob Holman, right? Dr. Holman.
Hello.
Yes.
Good to be with all of you. We are having our call volume spike like everybody else. We just received news from our medical examiner's office that our opiate overdose fatalities went up 46% from 2019 to 2020. 94% of our overdoses have fentanyl or a fentanyl analog with them. And that is up over the last 5 years by quite a bit. We've had a 500% rise in fatal opiate overdoses since 2014. Just to comment on a couple of things, I think we've been asking our leadership for mandates for our fire department, and we're probably not going to get it until there is FDA approval. I think there's going to be pressure to get that FDA approval done by the beginning of August, what with the high schools opening and whatnot. And then the other thing I will mention is we're often touted in the news as having a 70% rate of vaccination, at least one dose. It's actually not that high. It's 60% for first dose and about 51% for fully vaccinated. What happens is they keep counting the non-residents that received their vaccines in Washington. And so that skews the responses, but our DC residents are 60 and 51% vaccinated.
Okay.
So, and then I would echo what John said about the Nature article. I think it is encouraging, but it's very limited and it really doesn't have any the clinical or even some of the laboratory markers that we would wish, but it's at least not disappointing. I'll say that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, thanks, God. And then this is your first Eagles meeting too, right? If I remember correctly.
Yes, it is. I really enjoyed it. I thought the camaraderie, the short presentations, the openness and exchange were terrific.
Okay. Any suggestions you would have to change it or anything you would do differently?
I would love a non-smoking building.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. We'll work on that for the future. I agree 100%.
I have a little asthma and I kept coughing when I'd walk through the lobby.
Dr. Holman, if I could just comment, by the way, what you said about how they're giving out the numbers, we have that same problem here. Theoretically, in Miami Beach, we have over 120% of our population vaccinated, and that's because of so many visitors that come and get their vaccines. It's a huge problem. It's a reflection of the fact that we don't have a national system for healthcare.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to report here that 132% of our population is vaccinated, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, listen, I think we're getting on the witching hour, as they say. I just wanted to see if anybody else had anything else you wanted to pipe in. I think I probably at one point or another captured everyone. Maybe not Terry Valenzuela, but anybody else out there before I go to Terry? Yes.
Just want to mention a couple of things. Number one, our EMS fellowship is beginning in 2 days. So Austin is very excited to have our first EMS fellow. But the other thing, which is probably more relevant.
No, I got to interrupt you. I got to interrupt you for a second and just make sure they learned that if they go to a main meeting with the Eagles, that they have to order key lime pie, not cheesecake. Okay, that's an inside joke. That happened. Emily did a study of when we all went to dinner, and the Eagles, like it was like a ridiculous number. Almost everybody picked key lime pie, and the 3 people who did not were first year in doing the job. Okay, and then the fellows, 5 of 6 picked cheesecake and not key lime. So we said that really was a training problem. So we got to make sure you get to them early on. Okay.
That's a darn shame.
Yeah.
There's no competition between key lime pie.
I know.
and cheesecake.
There was as Remley pointed out, that there were sampling errors and there was an intention to eat problems that went on there as well. All right, I'll shut up. Let's move on. What else are you going to say?
The other thing is that our city council has directed the city manager to create a fee schedule for physician and APP EMS billing. So when that's done, I'll be sure to share it to the group. I know it's been a constant question and issue amongst this group, but we anticipate that we'll have a fee schedule for our clinical services in the coming weeks.
Okay, that's fantastic then. So thanks for letting us know about that. Or anybody have any questions about that or want to ask them about it? If not, Terry, why don't we have parting words from you, if you don't mind, Terry Valenzuela.
Sure. Last week, the Arizona Governor Ducey put out an executive order forbidding the state's universities and community colleges from requiring vaccination, documentation of that vaccination, and requiring masks. So he's apparently channeling Governor Ducey in Florida, and clearly it's a bit of a handicap in keeping the universities free. So that's
not all university or state-owned universities.
Well, he has jurisdiction over the 3 state universities and the community colleges.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You know, freedom wins. It's a choice.
Yeah, well, I always like to be pro-choice and pro-life, as Curry Slovis used to say, which is I choose to get vaccinated and wear a mask. So, all right. Okay, well, I guess that's it then. Anybody else have anything else before I sign you all off and welcome you back to the show that never ends next week? It'll be a post 4th of July meeting on the 5th. And so I hope you can all join us. If not, I understand. I got my dates wrong. 6th rather, right? The 6th is the Tuesday, correct? Yeah, the day after, because the 5th is a national holiday or whatever it may be. All right. Well, listen, thank you very much, everybody. It's really great to see you on. Be prepared. 2 surveys coming from me. That'll be fun to be able to collate. I really thank you all for being there. Okay. See you later. Thanks. All right. Hey, Eileen, can I give you a call? I want to catch up with you. Okay.
Yeah. The meeting already started at 1, but
don't worry
so
about
let's talk fast. Let's talk fast.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say hello.
Hello. How nice to see you.
Yeah,
you run a great meeting. It's just, I'm doing public comment because it's all about education and, and that's very, very relevant. I'm revamping the way that we teach at the medical school right now, trying to integrate disciplines. And one of the things is that they're going to be giving money to do exactly what I want to do. And so it's very important that I, and do this and do that. It's all about policy and funding.
Yeah. So then you got the word that our papers, at least the 2 of the 3 that you and I were working on got accepted, right, for that ASAP.
I know. I'm so proud of you. You are so cool. you. I mean, really, yes, I participated, but you're amazing. Well done.
But we'll see. I'm going to say is that what's well done is I got to start writing the paper up, and then maybe even get your advice about where to target it. Since it maybe immunology related, or maybe it's more generic. I don't know, but I'd like to get your advice about where you think we should target. That's all. All right. Well, listen, and I've actually, it was too bad because I flew into Miami on Friday night. I thought, hey, this would be a great chance to go out, get dinner with you or something like that. But I'll work it out again sometime soon.
Yeah, one of the easiest ways to get that published is to do a letter to the editor at the New England Journal of Medicine.
Okay.
And then you have a really reputable journal. And people read those letters to the editors, and they become, a small study like that. That's a good way of getting it published. in a very high level journal.
Yeah, so let me kind of write it up, and then maybe you can help me do that, work on that one of these weekends or something, you know, along these lines. All right, and then that's it. And I'll let you know, maybe I'll be back. I'm gonna actually go for the weekend to see my kids. And so I'll be back the following week, I think the Wednesday. And so I don't know if you're around that following Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whatever. I'd love to get together with you, et cetera. Okay, so.
All righty, take care. See you soon.
Yeah, let me know what your schedule is. I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Take care.